I just wanted to game dev. I don't have much time. I don't have any coding experience. Let's see how far I got in 10 hours. So I loaded up Hero's Trial, the tutorial in Gamemaker, using the visual version to avoid scary code. And I watched a tutorial on runes and how they work. And then I learned a bit about objects and sprites. Then I tried to work out how to do sword attacks. After looking at a tutorial on GML code and being aware that it doesn't line up with my Python understanding, I realised this was a bit too complicated to start. So I played about a bit with the sprite editor and eventually managed to make an object with a sprite that responded to a key press, like this. I attempted to learn how surfaces work so I could use these for a fog of war type effect, so I went through a tutorial on fog of war by 1UpIndie. As time went on, I thought I was getting the hang of it. I thought it was starting to make sense to me. This is actually really intuitive. A surface to draw on over the normal screen for light, shadow and decals, but the code didn't actually produce the output desired. I even went back to the visual version of Gamemaker to try and make something happen. In the last 10 minutes I was getting error after error after
Why is
error
my
after
surface
error.
not appearing?
I then proceeded to have an existential crisis, doubting my sanity, life choices and cognitive function, ranted at my friends and family and almost quit for Unity. Boom boom. The next day I realised I'd forgotten to add the object to the scene. We'll chalk that little breakdown up to processing time. Moving on. This surface is an object that can be used as a canvas for the fog of war to be painted and removed from. You need code to draw the surface and to check if the surface exists, and then draw it if it doesn't exist. With this, I actually managed to put together what was supposed to be like a vision code in front of a sprite, and managed to get it to line up. Once I realised that I actually needed to draw a surface to use it, it came together. I'm using it to make a shadow effect where the player's torch will subtract from the darkness, using a GPU blend mode subtraction. At this point I got pretty absorbed here. Things were starting to make sense, I was back in the flow of it all. I started trying to make movement a bit better, because I accidentally made multiple button presses multiply the speed. Yeah, and after 3.5 hours I had a light orb that moved around the surface that makes it dark, and a light cone that looks around the light orb. Something happening. I sort of developed a player character and worked out how to do rotations with this point direction image angle thing. Wahaha! That was coming together alright. Hour 5, moving on from the player character, I wanted to try and use a mouse over tutorial to make items glow on highlight. So I started that, combined this with an inventory tutorial to try and make some sort of pickup system. Yeah, I completed this after 4.5 hours, but because I got distracted by sprites. Because it's just fun to make animations and little changes. But anyway, the most important thing in terms of code that I learned here is to work out how to search and add to arrays using a thing called for loops. So you just go through this list that you've made in your code. Yeah, this will be really good because it opens up a lot of options for game structures that can help make the mechanics that I want to happen work. I also worked out how to remove objects, so just with the destroy instance code, so that's been useful. Here I'm still relying on tutorials, but I'm starting to get an understanding of how these structures work and how to apply these methods, and starting to gain skill sets that will allow me to code later. So I created a version of this after about 5 hours total. In my notes I've got something here that says, I've got a game now, I just need to clean it up a little. Maybe not. Hour 6, here I just did some basics, adding collision, applying hitboxes, working on walls and doors with collision. But it was around this time that Gamemaker started to remind me of doing science. The fun side of being a scientist, being absorbed by a topic. I found myself getting excited about the little snippets of code that I'd worked out how to do, excited about the new functions that I'd found. I'm really having fun learning this stuff. True. I got really into doors. So I've sort of got an idea about interactable objects with pickups, but now I wanted to get doors that are open.
To try and do this.
I was thinking that maybe I could change the angle of the door sprite but then I realised that was going to be really complicated and probably laggy, so I just did a different door with sprite images. Here I realised that I'm going to have to learn something called states, and I used a mixture of tutorials on object states and trial and error to put together a very ugly system of door opening. This was my first foray into working out how to do states, and I did it, in hindsight, very, very badly.
I did so many things to get this to work. I added a step function where it counts down a little timer to make sure that it doesn't double detect the key press. I've added like auto loops on this, so now I can open and close a door. That has absorbed so much of my 10 hours.
But anyway, it works, but I'm sure it's incredibly inefficient. The final 90 minutes, I was playing around trying to learn how to do background tile sets. This was another video from 1UpIndie, so thanks 1UpIndie. Adding overall game variables where items are assigned. And then lastly, I put together like a very rough GUI.
Okay, so I have this 2-stage health system that I've just put together. Check this out. You've got like a shield, and it drains, and it drains, and it drains, and it drains. And then when it reaches this, and you're dead.
So a few little different things in the last 90 minutes. I was flitting all over the place because I wanted to get something that would run and make sense in the first 10 hours. So, I mean, after only 10 hours of learning over 2 weeks, I got to a point where I feel like I can pick up new concepts from scripting and apply them to the game. I can work out how to do my own things, not just relying on copy and pasting or like copying from tutorials as I go. I might actually be able to make a game, right? Okay, let's make one.